And with that, the voice of college football at Fox Sports, Joel Klatt, is joining us. Okay, so we're doing, by the way, the Michigan-Maryland game. Tua's brother plays at Maryland. He's fun.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Maryland's a lot better this year.
Way better.
Yeah.
So I've been very pro-Michigan this year, and then I saw something Saturday.
Uh-oh, what'd you see? It
takes a keen eye to see this. A lot of people may have missed it.
What was it?
So I like J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, they're a quarterback.
Mobile, easy thrower.
Yep.
He does something you cannot do against Ohio State. You cannot do it against Georgia. And it's going to be their undoing.
What is it?
He's trying to be perfect. He holds the ball too long.
Yeah, so I actually did a dive on this, a deep dive on this, and this is the area that he's got to grow.
Iowa's defense
is one of those defenses that you cannot be indecisive with because they major in tips and overthrows. You get those tips, you get the overthrows, they're going to turn them into turnovers, and then maybe they'll turn them into points. I don't know, but maybe they'll just punt with Torrey Taylor. But it's interesting for me because young quarterbacks have to learn that. You know, part of growing up as a quarterback, Colin, is that you are going to at some point hit a line where you can't just out-athlete everybody.
That's right.
And you've got to put yourself back into the system and really utilize the system to the best of its capability.
And he's a good athlete.
He is a good athlete, but you can't be the high school kid that didn't just looks at me like, oh, I've got a deep corner route on the left side. Now I'm going to chuck it down there. He held the ball too long against Maryland. There were a couple of times in particular in the red zone where he made poor choices, but that's also a maturation process. You've got to go through things like that, watch the film on a week in, a week out basis in order to get better. If JJ plays the way that he played last week, this week against Iowa, they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
I think so.
That's a difficult place to play. Jim Harbaugh knows it. He knows that that's where top 5 teams go to die. You know, and he's even said that Kinnick Stadium. Now I know Iowa doesn't have a great offense, but that defense will make you pay. Will make you pay.
I was almost thought about going to the game to give it a little more buzz. But I'm going to stay home.
I'm sure the people in Iowa are very disappointed that you didn't.
By the way,
you decided to stay home.
You better send me a video. You know they like me there.
Oh, 100%. That's one of my favorite things is not only just going to Kinnick, which is one of my favorite venues in all of college football. You do the wave after the first quarter. It's one of the great traditions in college football. But then it's just walking with a selfie video and just seeing how many people jump in and be like, hey, give Colin hell. Ah! You know?
Okay.
It's my favorite.
So, Georgia, I think, is on a different level.
Sure.
And then I think Bama, Ohio State are really good.
Yep.
And then I think Michigan would beat USC if they played. I don't know if Clemson would.
What do you think about the gap between 4 and 3? Like between the top 3 and the rest?
That's my takeaway. So I kind of put now, after watching Ohio State, I'm going to put Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, predictably, there.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Clemson, Michigan, by the way, Kentucky, Ole Miss. Am I nuts on? I try not to be a homer.
Oklahoma State can be thrown in there. Tennessee.
I think USC has an argument as the 4th or 5th best team in the country.
Well, here's the deal: is that once you get past the top 3, then I think there's probably 10 teams that could say, like Utah, if they just. Utah on any given Saturday could be up there and beating a USC or a Michigan.
Are you surprised by how slick this roster was? 4-8 last year.
Well, I'm not surprised because they brought in so much talent. You're talking about USC. They brought in so much talent, and I just know, like, Lincoln Riley is one of the best coaches in America. That was going to make a huge difference, and it has. And it's really important the way that they won that game against Oregon State. USC wins a game in which their star player plays his worst game. That's important for the rest of the roster to realize that their contributions are going to matter. You know, it's no longer just like, oh, Caleb is just going to win the game for us. It's like, no. Hey, defense, your 4 interceptions, they mattered. It just wasn't filling the stat sheet. If you didn't get those 4 interceptions, you weren't going to win the game. The pressure that they were able to put on the quarterback, I thought was really good.
I think
on the front.
They passed the eye test.
They do, but it's a larger issue, right? It's not just about, well, who's number 4. We've got such a gap between the top 3 schools and everybody else in college football. And you can say, like, well, it's talent. Yeah, but do you realize how far the gap is? It's dramatic. Let me just give it to you with some numbers. If you take a look at the talent team composite, okay, that means you take the roster and you look at what they were as recruits and you say, like, how talented is each roster in the country?
Yeah.
Right now, Alabama's the number one talent composite roster. Guess what? Georgia and Ohio State are right there. They're the top three. It looks like it. But the gap is really stark. Let's just put it this way. The 11th ranked team in the team composite is USC. It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
11th best, talent in the country. The gap between USC and Alabama, who's number one, is the same as the gap between USC and FAU at 69th. The bulk of college football is actually fairly even.
Yeah.
Fairly even.
Right.
As opposed to the top three who are way out in front of everybody else. So this is how you get Tulane beats Kansas State, then Kansas State beats OU, or how you get Oregon State playing great against USC.
I watched Serena. I watched Federer. I watched
Tiger Woods, same thing.
Barcelona, Tiger Woods. My whole life, I watched Ollie when I was a kid. The greats are always much greater. Like when I used to watch Michael Jordan, I can remember sitting on the couch and watching Michael Jordan in a playoff game. And remember talking to a friend saying, he's so much better than the second best player. LeBron in his prime was so much better than number two. I think Giannis now, both ends of the floor, you're like, he just does whatever. So it doesn't bother me. I do think there's other teams. Texas played Bama. You saw the talent. USC will combine. Okay, let's go to this. It would be very easy right now in America for me to mock, to elbow, to poke Oklahoma.
Would it?
I'm above that. So when Brent Venables arrived, here's all I heard. We're going to be tougher. Old fancy boy's going to L.A. We're going to be tougher. Yeah, tougher to watch. That defense got rolled. You know who's playing great defense? Old fancy boy in L.A.
Well, I don't know about great.
Hey,
let's
Kansas
relax
State got
on
beat by Tulane.
They did.
That was horrible.
By the way, this is the third time in the last 4 years that Kansas State has beat Oklahoma. So it's not like old fancy boy didn't take those whippings from Kansas State either, right? I want to be fair in all of this. This Kansas State team, they came in there and they beat up Oklahoma badly. And now it's on tape. Like, that's the blueprint. If you're going to go play Oklahoma, you better test the middle of that defense. Yeah. And Brent Venables better get it right. There's one thing I do know about this sport, though. You're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are.
Except Georgia.
Well, maybe. That might be true, although they didn't play their best game against Kent State. But Oklahoma is a case study in that. They weren't as good as what we thought they were when they played a Nebraska team that was clearly deflated the week that they lost their coach. And they're probably not as bad as the team that got pushed around against Kansas State. They're probably somewhere in the middle.
All right.
Here's one thing I do know. They were totally undisciplined as far as penalty goes, and their quarterback played his worst game that I think he's going to play this year.
Looked like to me?
And they're going to get beat when he does that.
Looked like they lost a great coach.
By the way, that conference
is good.
Where's the easy game in the Big 12?
It's
so
good.
If you're OU, and here OU fans were after me as well, because I said, listen, Lincoln Riley's probably going to have a top 10 team. And then I said, boy, when you look at Oklahoma and their schedule this year, they might have
they got a lot of danger
3
games.
Losses. And
Oklahoma State now is
Oklahoma State is good. Baylor's good.
Iowa State, watch out.
Kansas is the 4th-ranked scoring offense in the country. They've scored 27 touchdowns. The only other team that scored 27 touchdowns is Ohio State.
This year may be a big L sandwich for those guys. Breaks my heart. All right, let's move to this. Okay, let's not pile on Oklahoma.
No.
Okay.
We wouldn't do that.
Now, I have, through the years, I've been very pro-Sark. And Texas Tech is not a laughingstock. They got players, they score. You got to win those games because those donors, here's the other thing. Oklahoma, Brett Venables is one of them. They're not going to get rid of him. Sark, Texas, they just buy a guy. They don't care.
Well, it's been part of their problem.
If he loses this weekend, there are donors that will say he's not the guy. You know I'm right.
That is true, although he's done things with that program that make them feel like it's going to be okay. And I will say, I came on this show and on my podcast. You can go download it, by the way, Joel Klatt Show. I said they're going to lose. After the Alabama loss, I said they're going to lose again before Red River. Why? Because their quarterback got hurt.
Yeah.
So they're not, and they were a different team with Hudson Card than they were with Quinn Ewers.
No question.
And so I knew that they were going to get beat at some point. It happened on the road against Texas Tech. Yeah. The more alarming part is that they keep giving up fourth quarter leads. And that's a problem.
Is that because you should be able to secure wins because they have the best running back in the country?
That's right.
You can eat clock. That means to me, is it a situational lack of awareness? With Bijan Robinson, you should always have a lead and eat the clock and win the game.
If you have a lead, what it comes down to is line of scrimmage. If you have a lead and you can win the line of scrimmage, you will win the game. You will win the game. But if you have to continue doing things that protect your line of scrimmage because it's not great yet, then you're going to put the ball in harm's way. And by the way, I don't expect Bijan Robinson to fumble late in the game like he did against Texas Tech.
Yeah, he's great.
But as their offensive line gets better and more mature, remember they had 2 true freshmen start in that game against Alabama. They're very young, but it was the top offensive line class in the recruiting cycle last year. They will get better. I do think that I still believe in Texas. I think they could still wind up in the Big 12 championship game. That's a really talented roster. When Ewers comes back, remember this, folks. They have 5 five-star starters just on their offense when Quinn Ewers is back. That's as talented as you can possibly get, and I think that they're going to be all right.
You were not a 5-star guy, but look at your life.
I was
not
a walk-on.
all about stars.
I was a walk-on.
Hey, so was I. I walked into a radio station. They gave me a job. We're both walk-ons.
How about that? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, got a lot in common.
Did you badger him? Did you just badger him to death?
It was just yes or no, sir, and they just
yes sir, no sir.
Very respectful.
Nobody listening believes that.
Okay, let's shift gears quickly. So I don't get caught up in the rankings. Somebody on the internet, and I apologize, somebody had a great line. They said if your rankings look like standings, they're not really rankings. And I look at the top 10 rankings a lot of times, and it's just the undefeated teams. And I think, I mean, like you said, Texas, after they lost to Bama close, I'd have moved them up.
Which I did, by the way.
Yeah, you did. So give me, what is your biggest complaint with the AP rankings?
My biggest complaint is that they don't do their job, which is evaluate the team. Right? Like the AP poll system is just totally broken. It's a joke. The fact that Kansas is not ranked tells me
in the top 20,
in the top 25, they're not ranked. And it's why? Because you're trying to legitimize your preseason thoughts as a voter. So Team A and Team B. Team A is 6th strength of record. They're the 4th best scoring offense in the country. They've scored 27 touchdowns. They've won 2 road games, 1 in conference and 1 against a team that was favored to win their conference and be a group of 5 representative.
Team
A. Team B, 35th best strength of record. They're 3-1, so they've lost a game. They only have 1 road win. Their points per game is 43rd in college football, and they beat West Virginia by 7. So who should be ranked? Team A, Team B.
Team A.
Team A is Kansas. Team B is Pitt. Pitt's ranked. Kansas is not. Why is Pitt ranked? Because they were ranked in the preseason. And the AP poll voters don't know what they're looking at. You are not good at your job because you don't evaluate what's actually going on the field.
Well, you know what? Look, can I defend the media, of which I'm barely a part of? Because in the NFL, I'm not asked to vote. But in college football, if I'm a voter, I'm at a game. I can't watch all these games. So a lot of it is I look at the score, I watch highlights on YouTube, and I'm not in all defending bad voting. But I think you have to strongly consider the AP's an outdated premise. There's so many games.
But it also still matters in college football. This is my argument. Everyone says, well, it doesn't matter. Well, it does still matter because...
How about take it out?
Because perception still matters in this sport. Subjectivity still matters in this sport. It matters how many times you're ranked in the top 25 when it comes to contract time. It matters if you're ranked when you go into a recruit's house and you say, hey, I want you to come to our program because we're a ranked team. These things matter, and I'm sorry, like if you accept the responsibility of being an AP poll voter, you can't then turn around and be like, it's hard. Well, you accepted the job, so suck it up and do it right.
Well, you're very rigid today on your demands.
Well, it's a sense of urgency.
Let me soften you up a bit.
Let's see it.
So Oregon's offensive coordinator, Kenny, is it Dillingham?
Yes.
He told Sports Illustrated that he blames LeBron going to Miami for the college football player movement problem, citing the need to play on super teams. What do you make of that?
I think that's a stretch. I don't think that we can sit here and blame LeBron when that's more of a cultural shift. I mean, like that's what we do.
The empowerment of young employees.
Well, and I mean, listen, in our culture, this is a very Colin thing to do. Like, this is not even a sports take. In our culture, we navigate where we're most comfortable, where we feed ourselves. We get into news cycles that only benefit our own frame of mind.
That's
and so
Facebook.
We're just going to, it's Facebook. It's our entire culture. We do things that are comfortable for us, that makes ourselves feel better about ourselves.
Yeah.
And the transfer portal, where's the kid supposed to go? Where it's most difficult? Like, that doesn't, like, I'm sorry, why?
By the way, I'm not opposed to that cultural shift. I don't want to beat my head over with a piece of lumber.
You could say
day.
that, like, the news cycle and us becoming more rigid in our own silos doesn't make culture better.
Now, that I agree. That's something that Bill Maher and Bill Clinton both talked about 10 years ago, I think. Clinton was the first one that brought it up in that if you start living in your silo and you only get the information that you agree with, you become very rigid because you really believe if you sit on a Reddit board with all your wackadoo friends telling you this politician's good and this is bad, that's what I believe in.
I think we have a bigger problem in college football, not trying to form a super team. I think we have a bigger problem that we don't have players that understand how to face adversity and then, more importantly, work through adversity. You know, a big one of these, and this is a guy that you love, Caleb Williams' body language Saturday night was
not
awful.
good.
It was awful. And it's like, hey, Brosif, like, it's not always easy. I don't know what to tell you. It's football. This is not
I didn't
flag.
like it either.
This is not the commercial. Like, it's not always going to go perfectly for you. You're not always going to win. In life and on the football field, you've got to go through hard things because the trials and tribulation of this life is what produces perseverance, right? So, like, that's a bigger problem with young people today than wanting to go join a super team. They don't understand how to see, face, and work through adversity.
Kids, let me tell you a different message. When you see adversity, run. It's no fun. It's obnoxious. And it's
you do it. I mean, you bring me on every week.
You know what?
That's adversity for you because you've really got to think when I'm in here. You got to be on your P's and Q's. I commend Colin.
All right, give me your top 10, Klatt.
Well, I got Georgia number one because Georgia is Georgia right now.
Let's let the audience consume it. Let's do this together as a team.
I see.
I'm your lead blocker on this. Let's put up your top 10.
Let's do it.
Okay, do we have it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, let's talk our way through it.
Georgia's number one. I think Georgia is the most complete and best team in the country.
Okay, I have moved Ohio State to 2.
I have.
Satisfied with what my keen insight has seen.
Ohio State is the best offense in the country, and they're playing better on defense.
Yeah.
Alabama has had some struggles on the road going back to last year.
Yeah.
Remember, 2-point win against Florida, lost to A&M, 4-overtime win against Auburn,
when do they
and
play
then
Arkansas?
The 1-point game against Texas, that's this week at Arkansas. So watch out for that game. And then after that, I'm going to go Michigan, Clemson, are the next two, and that's kind of the next tier. And then when you get 6 to 10, there's about 10 teams you can pick from. I went Kentucky, Oklahoma State, USC, Penn State, and Tennessee.
Hey, I want to put something on your radar you probably don't know anything about. There's a quarterback at Kentucky named Will Levis.
Yeah,
you probably haven't seen any footage of it.
I'm familiar.
I have picked him up on YouTube. Keep your eye on him.
YouTube.
I saw a YouTube clip last week. And I just want to throw it out there because a lot of times you come on here and you're just
okay. So I will tell you, Will Levis is likely going to be the third quarterback taken in the NFL draft.
Big mistake. He's. I would go Bryce Will Levis. It's nothing against CJ. I think we have 3 guys that are going to make it.
No, he's not better than CJ Stroud. That was cute of you. I mean, giving him props and everything. But he'll be the third quarterback taken in the draft.
Can they beat
Ole Miss?
It's Oxford.
That's going to be a tough one. You know, Ole Miss has won 12 straight at home.
I know.
So that one's going to be tough, and Ole Miss can run the heck out of the ball. I think Ole Miss wins that game this weekend.
All right. Will Levis, keep
I'll keep an eye on him. What is it, on YouTube?
YouTube's got some clips. He plays in the SEC.
Got it.
Kentucky.
Got it.
Which is now a football school. John Calipari, sorry for that shout-out, but they're pretty good in football. Are they not?
Well, I mean,
they're not losing to St. Peter's in football, I'll tell you that.
I know Kentucky's basketball program makes revenue, and so this is not a shot, but they don't make as much revenue as the football program. Just is what it is.
68,000. Mitch Barnhart. He's the athletic director. At one point, he hated me.
No.
They all do.
At some point? But do they eventually come around?
I used to.
It's like the Iowa
long
folks.
Story.
The Iowa folks, they've got a soft spot for you.
Hi, Iowa. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.